Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Cecil County Council work session meeting for February 19, 2013. Before we get started, I'd like to make an introduction. We have a new member of our team sitting at our table in front of you. Jim Massey has now been appointed and is employed by the county as our county council manager. So the first item on our agenda today is the approval of the minutes from February 5th, 2013, our work session meeting. Is there any amendments or changes to our council work session meeting minutes of February 5th, 2013?
Mr. President, there's a change on page 3, second paragraph in the bottom, second sentence. It's the work session meeting minutes. There's two extras. There's an extra to the.
An extra what?
To the. Page 3. Council moved to add the personnel issue to the closed session meeting.
Is there any other amendments? May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes with the amendment?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Is there another motion?
Okay. Did everybody read their minutes? There's a few abstains.
I was going to abstain, yeah. I don't think I was there. I'll second for the purposes of discussion, I guess, and move this along.
Which, you said the third to last paragraph?
Second to the last paragraph on the third page.
Would you just read what you want to correct, please?
Council moved to add the personnel issue to the closed session meeting.
Looks like it's just a typo.
I'll second it.
There is a second already.
I'll withdraw mine.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve the work session meeting minutes for February 5th of 2013. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say aye. Okay, the work session meeting minutes of February 5th, 2013 are approved. Second item is council closed session meeting minutes for February 5th of 2013. Are there any amendments or modifications to the February 5th, 13 closed work session minutes?
I move the minutes be accepted as stated.
Okay, is there a second to the motion to approve those minutes?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those in opposition signify by saying nay. Okay, the meeting minute.
Mr. President, is there any abstentions? I think there were 2 abstentions on the work session minutes because 2 members weren't here.
Yeah, I'll abstain, I think.
I'm
Joyce, were you there for that one? I don't know.
No, I was not, but I don't think that we have to abstain. I think that it didn't Robert's Rules of Order state that we don't have to abstain.
There was three ayes, no nays, 2 abstentions, but we don't have to record that. I think all we have to do is say it was approved by majority
Not
vote.
with me.
The next item on our agenda is bond refinancing update. Winston Robinson, the finance director, and his staff will make a presentation to the council regarding and in the past it's always been called refunding. Is there a difference between refinancing and refunding?
No, it essentially is the same.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is to report on the proposed refunding of general obligation bonds. Like many actions in recent months, this proposal is proposed under charter government, and I'd like to run through a small amount of background. The county uses a bond consultant to assist in bond financing and issuances to obtain new money for the county's capital improvement program. The bond consultant is also asked to alert the county when opportunities occur for the refinancing of older, more expensive bonds with new, less expensive bonds. As interest rates have declined in recent years, the county has often issued refunding bonds. Both terms you'll see were in those two sentences. Savings when refunding bonds is measured by comparing the net present value, or NPV, of the stream of principal and interest payments on the new bonds versus the stream of payments on the bonds being replaced. The county generally follows the state in using a 3% goal or threshold when evaluating the reasonableness of refunding opportunities. The potential savings changes each day as the market demand changes. Refunding bonds are used to call and pay off some bonds immediately, while the remaining funds are placed in an escrow account to buy U.S. Treasury securities sufficient to pay off the remaining refunded bonds, either when they mature or when they are able to be called. Bonds supported by an escrow account are considered defeased and are removed from the outstanding debt of the county. What we currently propose, Finance has reviewed proposals from the county's bond consultant and has proposed to the county executive that Cecil County proceed with the refunding of parts of the 2002, 2005, and 2007 general obligation bonds through the issuance of 2013 general obligation bonds. Although the specifics of the refunding are subject to the market conditions at the time of issuance, a bond resolution will likely be introduced on March 5th that will ask for authority to issue up to 24 million of new refunding bonds. The analysis shows that about 19 million of bonds is most likely to be refunded, with a net present value savings of about 765,000 or 4.1%. As a transition issue related to the change in the government from commissioner to charter, in the wording of the specific state law, the actual refunding resolution will look longer and different from previous refundings, but will revert to the previous format when later refundings relate to charter-issued bonds. Finance has also proposed to the county executive that no bonds be issued at this time related to new money for capital projects. Unspent bond funds are still available. Council is about to take up the FY 2014 CIP program, and a delay until the fall means a principal payment on new bonds will not need to be made in FY 2014. By addressing the refunding in isolation, many of the practical issues related to bond issuances have been addressed without the complexity of addressing new funds. I thank the county executive, the director of administration, my staff, Sam Ketterman, his bond consultant, Cheryl Guth, his bond counsel, for their efforts in putting together this first effort. That's it.
Okay, are there any questions from the council members?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Robinson, how is your bond consultant compensated?
As part of the bond issuance, There is a percentage of that that goes to the underwriter. There is part of it that goes to the bond consultant. This part of it goes to the printers and filing PPPs. It's all part of the package. The savings of $765,000 is after face value of the new bonds, plus any premium, minus those bond issuance costs, is right now projected to net this.
And now, the other question I have is, the current rate on the bonds now, did you say $24 million?
That's what the authority is. The most likely analysis, because the analysis will be done on the day of the actual offering, and it may vary slightly from what the original projections are. It varies because there's the interest rate and the premium that will be obtained by a specific bond on its issuance. And there's also the fact that we are going to be buying treasury securities to put into escrow so that when certain bonds mature or can be called, they can be paid off. Because those are things which will vary based upon the market, we actually won't know what the math works out to be until the specific day of the offering. Our best estimate at this point is that about 19 million of bonds will be refinanced.
Now, are these long-dated bonds, meaning 30-year bonds?
There's 20-year bonds when they were issued.
Okay.
And the way bonds are issued is, we think of bonds as being a 20-year bond, but it's actually a series of bonds. Each one is due on a specific date. So if you were issuing 20-year bonds, for instance, 20 million, you may have $1 million in principal due every year, and the interest on everything is paid each year until the point at which every tranche is matured.
The last question is, what is the interest rate savings? You're refinancing your bonds at hopefully a lower rate. What is that?
In this instance, yes. It doesn't always work out that way.
I'm aware of that.
But we are taking 4% interest bonds, and we're likely to use 3% interest bonds.
1% savings.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions by the council?
Yeah, just, I don't know if we got a copy of this in our work materials or not. Could you email this to us?
Yes.
Director, thank you.
I had a question. You said we didn't need to seek any further bond funding at this time. We have plenty left over for other projects. How much do we have left over?
I didn't bring that with me. Basically, at the end of December, there was over, I think, 10 million. What our analysis was, council has not actually considered the new CIP, and the amount of funds we have was sufficient to get through the projects into the early fall. And the best cost opportunity was to basically delay it until we need it.
Okay, and in your opinion, is it better for us to not pay for borrowed money we're not using? Should we?
Right. Yeah, with the interest rates being at this point, anybody who has a CD can probably say, unless it's an older CD, if you're buying a new one, getting an interest rate of 0.25 and paying 3 or 4% is not a good deal.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Is there any objection with the executive and her staff moving forward with the refunding?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is an update on stormwater management regulations, but I really think that is stormwater management enforcement. And that will be presented by Scott Flanagan and his staff.
You're correct, Mr. President. As you might recall, the council at a previous work session of a couple weeks ago had asked that the Department of Public Works provide the council with an update on the status of efforts to ensure that stormwater management facilities are being maintained by property owners. And so that's what we're here to present you this morning. And with me, of course, to my far right is Cordell Willen, Chief of Development Services Division, and then to my immediate right is Van Funk, who is the Chief of the Development Services Division, Sediment and Stormwater Management Branch. And at this point, I'll turn it over to them for the update.
Good morning, everyone. Just kind of a reminder for where we started with this and where we are today. As you may recall, we had many ponds throughout the county that were not being maintained properly, which is an issue not only for the developments, but also for the county if we were ever inspected by a state or federal authority. We identified at that time approximately 390 ponds within the county that needed some form of maintenance, and we categorized those as major maintenance, minor maintenance, or no maintenance required at all. In that group, there were approximately 60 that required major maintenance. So what we did was we brought back and said, okay, how do we tackle all these ponds? And if you recall, or for those who may not have been involved in the process, we created a flow chart of how to work through the process of notifying the HOAs, the owners, at what point do we send letters, at what point does the county intervene, do the work, and then charge the homeowners for that work to get ponds into compliance. So what we've done since we've got the process laid out in the flow chart, we've got our form letters all approved and reviewed. We've been in the process of actually going out, doing inspections of ponds, and notifying HOAs. To date, we have sent out 55 letters. Those letters were all targeted at the ponds that required major maintenance. Of those 55, we've been contacted by 20 either individuals or HOAs. 10 of those, we actually met with the HOAs or individuals on site with updated inspection reports and received either a verbal or a written letter of intent to get the ponds in compliance. To date, we've only got one that has completed all the work. We've got another that in the springtime, once we get grass growing, it will also be completed. So we're looking at two probably next month that are completed from needing maintenance to being done. The other 10 of that 20 that we were notified from were developers telling us that we're no longer responsible for the HOAs. We've turned that over to the developments. So proceed with notifying the homeowners. So that's really where we are right now. We're in the process of going through and identifying all the lots that are going to be impacted and also who the contacts are. So if we have a development where the HOA either has not contacted us or is not active, we have to go back through now and notify every individual within that development. And of course, the first question that we get from the homeowner is, are you sure I'm the one that's responsible, and can you prove it? So we've got to make sure we've got an inspection and maintenance agreement in place. So we're pulling those for every project. We are also going back and doing our deed research to find a declaration of restrictions for each HOA, which identifies the specific lots that are part of the HOA. So we're laying the groundwork so that when we're questioning, we can say, okay, here's who was responsible. This is how you're mentioning your deed restriction, and now here's the time frame that needs to be accomplished. So we're in the process now of sending out the second letter to those 45 developments or 45 facilities, and hopefully that will be accomplished throughout this next week and probably in the next week to finish that second letter. Also, we are working on the minor requirements, minor maintenance facilities. We've got about 140, a little over 140 of those facilities as well that require some level of maintenance, not as rigorous as the ones we're currently working on. And we're sending out those letters as well and concurrently with the majors. So, staff has been busy making sure that we're doing and getting current inspections, making sure that we can show who responds or who belongs to the HOAs and how they're responsible for the maintenance. So really, that's where we're at today. Don't have any questions for me about the process, or if you've heard any feedback, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead.
Do you believe that there needs to be more PR? I think that was a component that we had talked about doing, but it sounds like it's effective enough just for you to send out the letter and to be responsive to their questions and concerns.
Any PR or any outreach is good, and what we found is if we get contacted back, we go to the HOA, whether it's at one of their houses or the library, and we present their plan, and once we meet with them and show them the history of, well, here's how it was established, here's how you're involved, we've got a very positive feedback. The most critical part is making that first contact though. And I think once we start sending out these letters to the individual homeowners, we're gonna start getting a lot more contacts back. Some of these letters went to HOA with PO boxes or addresses where, this had actually gotten someone's hand or if it actually got, read. So at this point, when we start contacting, I'll take the example, there's a HOA or development on Blue Ball Road where there's a facility that needs to be maintained. We sent out to the PO box, but never got a response. Well, now we're going to have to go back and contact over 40 individual lot owners. So when that letter goes to them individually, we'll get a handful of people, hopefully a number of people will respond back. And they probably will say, well, we don't have an HOA, or didn't know I belonged to one. So that's when we start targeting the outreach on, educating them on what they belong to as far as the HOA and what their requirements are for maintenance.
What's your biggest obstacle right now in this whole process?
Time. This is doing the research to find the inspection and maintenance agreements or the declarations and contacting 40 lots for one specific development. It's a resource issue, but we're working through it. And but if your question is what's the biggest obstacle, it's time and resources.
But you don't think it's you believe this is an effective process, that ultimately you're gonna have a high percentage of the stormwater ponds or maintenance that's being addressed?
Yes, I'm very hopeful that, I think we're making a lot of progress. And like I said, once we make that contact with individuals and walk the ponds with them or facilities with them, we usually have a very good positive response.
Sounds encouraging.
Are there other questions from other?
Yeah, I have. I was involved in a study several years ago, and there were 110 at that time homeowners associations that were non-existent or were defunct. I'm sure that number's grown. So as you send out these letters to the individual homeowners, you're saying hopefully you'll hear from 5 or 10 of possibly 40. Do the other 30 understand that they're going to be responsible for the cost, and how do you do that?
Well, we haven't got to the point yet where we're pushing it past the individual owners, but yes, that's going to be part of the challenge, is making sure that everyone understands. When we meet with only 5 of the 40, that it gets out in the community that, hey, these guys are serious, that we have to do maintenance, we're required, and we're going to have to pay for this one way or another. That will hopefully spread throughout the community, and if we have to go back, if that generates more discussion, and they ask us to come back and meet with them again, that's what we'll do.
Sounds like the homeowners in that area are very motivated to get everybody on board, because they have everyone working together and contributing to the cost. And if they do it themselves, rather than you intervening, it's a whole lot cheaper.
That's the hope.
Councilman McCarthy, do you have a question?
Let's say that 5 people want to get this done and a number of them do not. What is your alternative? Just put their house up for foreclosure?
Well,
Tax lien on it?
hopefully that's not as far as it goes, but ultimately, if the majority decides not to move forward with any maintenance, the direction that we were given as the division was to move forward with sending out the letters, and stating that you have to this date to get the work complete. If you don't, the county will proceed with the work and charge the HOA accordingly.
Would that be each individual homeowner in
Yes.
the development?
Yes.
Now, the last question is, let's say hypothetically, that I were to buy one of these houses tomorrow, that the maintenance has not been performed for 20 years. Would I be equally responsible for 1/40th of all the work that needs to be done, even though I just moved in today and was not notified that I had any obligation by the seller or the real estate attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have one question more. Mr. Funk, are you also, inventorying and sending letters to commercial, industrial, and retail and all
Yes.
other? And did the McDonald's in Northeast do it upon your initiative, or they did it on their own?
No, we just did an inspection report, met with their manager, and coordinated the work, and that's one of the facilities that, they completed the work, but we're not going to finalize it until the spring, when they actually get grass growing on the facility. They did a good job cleaning up the facility, and, hopefully in probably end of March, we'll be able to say it's one that's off the, maintenance list.
Good. They spent a lot of time and money there.
Yes.
I didn't even know that there was a stormwater management facility there at all. It's been grown up so
Yes.
much, but they've invested a lot of money to repair that or bring it into compliance. Is there anything you need from the council today?
No, I just wanted to provide an update and, answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cordell, do you have something you want to bring?
Not
up?
at this point, no.
What about the grant
Yeah,
request?
we'll cover that at another session.
Another day?
Yeah. We have time for that.
I'm sorry?
We have time for that still.
Okay. All right, if there's no further questions, well, thank you for bringing that to us. The fourth item on our agenda today is the redistricting commission. As you recall, it was brought to our attention that the charter requires us to create a redistricting commission so that we can use the 2010 census to update our council districts. We did send letters to the Democratic Central Committee and the Republican Central Committee and asked for their 5 nominations for each for this commission. As you recall, this council needs to come up with a appointment to that commission and determine the chairman of that commission. I suggest that we postpone designating the chairman until we know who all the members are, but we should determine who we want to appoint as our representative on that commission. And I have asked the members to provide some names. Are we prepared to put names on the table today?
I was gonna suggest perhaps we should take, applications and see who's interested. I think we have until, what, April 1st to, appoint the commission, so perhaps in 2 weeks' time, we could, put out a solicitation and see who's interested in the position.
Also, I wanted to, review, I have my list of appointment, the applications, in the office here, whereas, I didn't have a chance to review with those that had submitted their names for anything. But I would entertain what, Mike had suggested too, that we, put a request out there for people that are interested.
Is that okay with the other members?
I've received one email requesting appointment.
Okay, so are we gonna put a press release out and encourage people to apply as volunteers?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to do it, yeah.
So we're just gonna ask them to send their request, or I know currently the executive branch has a application process.
Right.
Because,
This would be for us.
but this would be only for us. This is, the executive branch is not involved in this appointment for this matter. So are we gonna have our own application, or are we just gonna ask for letter of expressions of interest, or what do we want from the public that wants to volunteer?
Isn't it the same process as the animal control, that we had appointments that we,
Well, I think that one
they went through the executive with an application.
Yeah, well, just the application, just on our
Okay,
side.
do we want to make up an application?
I don't think that'd be very hard to do, would it?
Okay, Mr. Massey, can you make up an application? In many ways, you can probably just duplicate the, application that the executive and what we commissioners have used in the past. Now, what deadline do we want to have?
I was thinking 2 weeks, but I'm not necessarily, ironclad on that.
We'll probably not make the April deadline for 2 reasons. First off, I have reason to believe that I don't know that the Republican Central Committee is going to get their names into us by tomorrow, which was the deadline that we'd asked for. But we, in order to get the committee or the commission up and running by April, we should have an introduction of a resolution on March 5th. And the adoption on March 12th. Or no, what is our second meeting in March?
19th.
The 19th? So we're not gonna be able to have those and approve them by the 5th, so we're gonna have to delay the implementation. Do you see that being a problem of the committee?
I have no, it's tough for me to know because I have never been involved in redistricting. I've been led to believe that it should be fairly simple, so I don't think it'll be too much of a problem.
If we miss the deadline of establishing that commission,
We'll be out of conformance with the charter. The charter specifically states April 1st.
can we put Michael Dunn in jail then?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Wait a second.
Just kidding.
All right, is that gonna be a problem?
I don't know. I think we would maybe need some legal advice on that because it definitely specifically states April 1st.
Well, as far as our pick, I mean, I don't have a calendar in front of me. The 5th, we could, we could look at the applications and close on the 5th and put it on for intro. I don't know if we can do that under the new charter system. Could we put it on for that evening?
Yes.
As an intro? So I think that might work.
Okay, so the deadline for applications would be March 4th
Right?
Okay.
And then we'll review on March 5th.
in the morning.
In the morning.
And closed, yeah. Okay, and then put it on for intro in the evening, I think, that might work.
Does that work for everyone?
That's fine.
Mr. Massey, did you make that happen?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other questions regarding the redistricting commission?
Have you heard from the, you haven't heard
No.
from the Republican, have you heard from the Democratic Central Committee?
No, have not
I
heard.
think the Republican Central Committee, talking with Chris and Joe Bogan, I think, their meeting is later in February. So I think they might wait to discuss it until then, but I think it's next Wednesday or something like that.
Do you think that we can have their recommendations by March 4th?
I think so, yeah.
That would be important so we make the deadline.
Should we, remind the Democratic
Yes.
Central Committee that they need to?
Mr. Massey, would you send a letter of reminder, absolute drop dead deadline is March 4th? We previously gave them a deadline of February 20th. Okay, we previously talked about reconstituting the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee as an ad hoc committee for the council to help us review the budget and make advisory comments and suggestions for the budget. Their primary role, as I think we talked about, would be to sit in on the public comment sessions and the presentations by the departments and make comments to the council. Is that where we're heading? Is there any other ideas on, are we all in alignment on establishing the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee or some other similar ad hoc committee?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
They should, I understand that it's a whole different process now that, they would just be making recommendations to the council of, line items for us to review.
Yes.
But I think, also included in their review, if there's any questions they had or, things that they wanted, items that they wanted to pursue in getting more information, they can go to the council manager to request that information.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a list of names of citizens that we would like to appoint? And quite frankly, this is another one where we need to get started right away, because I think actually the budget process would be starting on March 5th meeting.
I was gonna reappoint the person I had before, and I think there's value in that. He's familiar with the numbers, the process, and he's expressed an interest.
I was also gonna reappoint my previous nomination, James Buckowitz.
The previous Budget Advisory Committee appeared to be very effective. So why don't we just, unless somebody has another name out there, because I was struggling to find another name. I had suggested Jim Budowitz as well, because I know Robert in his mind, and I said, okay. But why don't we contact the previous Budget Advisory Committee and see if they're all interested in?
They're not.
They're not.
At least one of them has
It
moved
was
out.
Joyce's, it was Terry's appointment, I believe, that didn't he?
One of them moved out of the county,
Oh, okay.
and one of them doesn't have the time, I think.
Well, I talked to Richard Boyle this morning, and he was interested in serving, and I was gonna put him on as my pick. I think he's an Elton resident, but that,
Doesn't matter.
this committee wasn't,
Right.
that didn't matter, yeah.
Do you have a person now?
I have 3 people, I've spoken to 2 of them, and I want to hear from the last person before I make my final recommendation.
Can you provide names to, do we need to approve each person's appointment?
I guess we just do it as a group, I guess.
Jim, could you compile the list and I don't know, do we need to have a resolution to establish this committee?
Probably.
Could you write one up? Could you put it on, and I would like to get them started even before we pass the resolution, because they really should be at each of the presentations.
I do have a name for you, Joyce, but I'm gonna wait till afterwards to let you know. 'Cause
Okay.
Is there any other discussion, comments, or questions about the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to the discussion on meeting with the Bay Cabinet. And Diana, you had asked, and I know that there've been various discussions about this before, and because the executive also was wanting to do this, and Alan and I had gone down to Baltimore to attend a Bay Cabinet meeting where they and there wasn't hardly any attendance by the public. I was very disappointed. It was Alan, myself, David Black, one person from Hartford County, and that was pretty much it, other than staff members.
That's good.
But they did ask us to ask them to come visit them, or they would be happy to come visit us. I know the executive office drafted a draft letter.
Well, that was at my, I had given County Executive Moore a call after a Clean Chesapeake Coalition meeting. And the topic came up about this letter where it says that President Newcomb, we all received a letter. Jim Mullen had received one, but I couldn't find our copy, so I just had Chip McLeod forward a copy of the letter in which, and that's what Executive Moore had asked for, the copy of the letter showing that we were being invited to contact the Bay Cabinet for a follow-up meeting. So I was pleased to see that letter she drafted, and I think it's another opportunity for us to sit down and to get the information out there about the impact of the Conowingo Dam. And among other things, at the last hearing in Annapolis, it was Senate Bill 391. I invited residents from Bayview and Westview Shores to talk about the impact of the dredge spoils. And once again, it's another pollution potential for the Susquehanna to Chesapeake Bay. And I don't think they're giving the same measure of accountability to themselves as they are to us. And there's a lot of things that we can discuss, and the Clean Chesapeake Coalition is encouraging us to follow up. keeping the conversation going. We also have an opportunity to sit down with Maggie McIntosh. When we testified in the House on HB 106, which is the House version of it's the repeal of SB 236, she agreed with a lot of what we had to say about the dam, so.
Is everyone okay with the draft invitation letter that the county executive prepared for signature by the executive and myself?
I'm satisfied with it.
Okay. All right, then I'll sign it on our behalf, and we'll get it in the mail. Hopefully we'll have a mutually agreed upon time where they'll come up here, and I would prefer it to be a public meeting so that the citizens can be aware of what the state's initiatives are. Okay?
Oh, so they're gonna come to us?
I would prefer they come to us.
If we have that option, I would certainly.
That, I have to say that when we were in Baltimore, didn't they say that we'll come to you? That's the impression I got.
That's exactly what they said, and it's my sincere desire that the citizens of Cecil County come and attend this meeting, because this will be a public education forum, so they can describe to you exactly what they're trying to accomplish and what it's going to do to benefit you.
Will they have an opportunity to ask questions of the Bay Cabinet?
Yes.
But I would hope that we'll be able to structure that format. Now, again, beggars can't be choosy all the time on everything, but we'll try our best to get them here in Cecil County and get where the public can ask questions after they make their presentation. That's what we'll try to do, right, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dinah brought it up, SB, House Bill 106 is the repeal of the Sustainable Growth and Agricultural Preservation Act of 2012. But I think yesterday it was voted as unfavorable, which means it basically killed it.
Mm-hmm.
It's dead. And there will be no repeal of that bill, so we're gonna have to continue to live with the SB 236 legislation, the best that I know of. So that doesn't look promising.
Yeah. SB 391, I anticipate the same outcome.
Okay, this evening at 7 o'clock, we're going to be having our legislative session. And before you is an agenda for tonight's meeting. Jim, you want to just go through that with us real quick?
Sure. The Citizens Corner is at 6. Call to order afterwards at 7. Pledge allegiance. There will be a presentation proclamation for Cecil County Public Library that I believe Councilwoman Rommel would like to present. The public hearing will be on the comments of the tier map that we submitted with the Maryland Department of Planning. So we invited Mr. Sandstrom to make the initial presentation to review the tier map. And then the comments will come from, we believe, the Secretary, Richard Hall, will be making a presentation on what the Maryland Department of Planning objects to the maps. Then allowing time for council members to ask questions and comments, and then to allow time for the public. We anticipate a large interest in this, and might suggest, I think it would be helpful to have a sign-in sheet so we know who's going to be speaking.
Does anyone have a problem with the 5-minute time limit with the sign-in sheet for this public comment? And it's my understanding that they're going to try to have remote videos of this for only overflow in the cafeteria area. We're going to try to film this and or video it and have the overflow if we have. I have to say that I know that the Southwest River Association, Thousand Friends of Maryland, and other environmental groups have really tried to energize their base to get them to show up here and make comments. So we expect a full house.
Then the approval of the minutes of the February 5th meeting, our public comments, and then comments from council members. Then, at this point, we have no new business, but we'll have the introduction of the bills, bill number 2013-01 and 2013-02. So we need to read the short title into the record. And then there are...
Jim,
Yeah.
can I stop you a minute? Eric, can you give us a little update on what these bills are?
Council may recall that these bills concern the issue of agricultural districts and the 50% property tax credit that goes along with agricultural districts. The Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation had, for the state program, required a two-step process. First step was district formation. Once you were in district, then you could apply to sell your development rights to the state. The state has decided to streamline their process and do away with the district step in the process and just allow people to apply to sell development rights to the state. However, the county has, through the Code of Cecil County, afforded a tax credit to individuals who form a district of 50% of the property outside of the improvements, and a 75% tax credit once you sell your development rights to the state. The idea was as an extra incentive to encourage people to pursue agricultural preservation. So this would allow us to continue to afford the 50% tax credit to individuals with district status by amending our local purchase and development rights program to create a district within that language in the Code of Cecil County, so that individuals can continue, if they have not chosen to apply to sell their development rights, still apply for and enjoy the 50% tax credit on their district properties.
Go ahead, Councilman Bruno.
Was there a change in the year of having to keep it in preservation?
The language that is before you will state that you have to maintain district status for a minimum of 3 years. The state program has said 5 years.
And what's the incentive for the county to go to a 3-year model?
Some people have voiced discomfort at tying up their property for a 5-year period, and the idea is that it may be more enticing to them to have 3 years rather than 5.
Is it worth it for the county, in your opinion, to go to a 3-year model? Is it long enough?
I would say so. I mean, it's something that hopefully will encourage individuals to take this step, and hopefully they will take the next step and sell their development rights either to the county or the state, or maybe donating them to an entity such as MET. But I don't see how it would be harmful to go from 5 to 3.
Are there any other counties that have a 3-year model?
That I don't know. I'll have to check for you.
Yes, I'd like to.
I would like to say to the public and to the council that if you notice the bill number 2013-01, which means this is our very first bill under consideration that we have before us. We will have introduction of it tonight, but it is something that we can have a lot of discussion, and we can modify it if we don't like it. Now, it is introduced and sponsored by the executive. So we should thoroughly research it and listen to what Eric has to say tomorrow night. I'm going to get in my trouble, but I'm going to ask Eric, could you do a fiscal impact for this bill also?
Yeah, we have already initiated that to the Department of Finance, and hopefully they will have that completed for you by this evening.
Okay, great. Is there any other questions by any of the other council members on just?
I just wanted to point out, this is the county executive's bill, and it's for department head that's doing the fiscal impact, and showing once again the benefit of having our own auditor to do that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Massey, is there any, could you do an impact fiscal impact?
Okay.
Well, I would suggest that you don't have to start from scratch.
No.
I would wait for the
Right.
fiscal impact from the finance department and then have it confirmed to your satisfaction and see if it meets accepted standards. Okay, That'll be, 2 bills will be introduced on the agricultural tax credit tonight. Is any further questions on that? More details will follow. Okay, Jim, back to you on the introduction of resolutions.
Okay, the next section would be the introduction of resolutions, which would be read into the record, and scheduled for public hearing on the 19th, and, for the amendment to the water and sewer plan. And then for the appointments, the public hearing would be on the 5th of March. And so Mr. Sundstrom would be presenting the resolution on the amendment 04-2013.
Mr. Centrum, could you give us a brief explanation of what that resolution is?
Certainly, Mr. President. There is a situation in the vicinity of Cherry Hill where properties to the east of the Gore facility have wells contaminated by TCE, which is trichloroethylene. The material was initially developed in the early part of the last century as an anesthetic and then later was used as an industrial solvent. The material has been found in a contamination plume that travels easterly of the Gore plant and affects several properties on the easterly side of Maryland Route 213. Council may recall that recently Artesian Water extended a water line to the Gore facility. For the past several years, Gore has been providing these individuals with bottled water so they would not have to drink their well water and ingest the TCE and contaminant. The desire by Gore now is to, and Artesian is to extend, now that the water line is to the Gore plant, is to extend the water service to these properties on the easterly side of Maryland Route 213 so that they can have potable drinking water again without having to rely on bottled water being delivered to their homes. So this amendment would amend the text of the county's master water and sewer plan to reflect the fact that these properties would be receiving water from Artesian, and also the service area map to show these properties as water service, W1 water service areas.
Thank you, Mr. Centrum. Are there any questions about this matter?
Director Sundstrom, is this an access-only line? Or does it have a potential to grow out from there? That if another amendment to the master water sewer plan were submitted, that they...
Well, presently these properties are within the Cherry Hill water service area, so it's not expanding the water service area, it's changing it from a plan to a existing. And if other customers within that area desire to obtain water from Artesian, then we would go through a process similar to this. It's not expanding the service area, it's providing water to individuals already within the service area.
So going from plan to now active.
Correct.
Okay, so the homes that have the TCI contamination, how many homes are they?
Just one, let me find my text here. It is properties, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate parcels that will be receiving water service.
So these are all in close proximity to the plant.
Yes, they're across, as I said, on the easterly side of 213, across the street from the Gore plant.
Are there any other questions about the resolutions that will be introduced tonight? Okay, Jim.
Okay. Then you have 4 resolutions that have already been introduced and heard from public hearing so that they're eligible to be considered by council. And the first one, 01-2013, is amendment to the water and sewer plan. You have one to support the financing by the Maryland Housing and Community Development for Riverwoods Housing Project in Northeast. Then you have 05, which is appointment to the Animal Care and Control Oversight Commission. And then 06, which is a consent order agreement between the Maryland Department of Environment and Cecil County regarding the Cecil County landfill.
I know some of the members were not at that meeting. Do you have any questions about these resolutions? Does anyone else have any questions?
I wanted to comment on the Riverwoods housing project. I've gotten feedback from concerned citizens about how many of these projects we've been funding, and they're concerned that we have an inventory of housing available in the county. Giving serious thought to this project.
Okay, well, we'll have a discussion and a vote on it tonight. So that is the conclusion of our business for
Yes.
tonight. All right, to complete our work session agenda is council items or councilman comments. Councilman Bruno, would you like to start?
Sure. I received an email from Kim, what's her last name? It was Selman, but, yeah, Kim Selman, about the litter problem across the county. And it's always encouraging to see one of our citizens to take a leadership role in trying to make a positive difference. She has a blog site called ceciltrash.blogspot.com. She has a petition she's been gathering signatures on. I responded to her that I have also noticed the accumulation of trash on roadways and encouraged her to look into the Adopt a Road program and encourage communities to get together to work together to keep the trash under control. But also, I was wondering about the Cecil County Sheriff's Department with the prisoners picking up the trash. Do we know, have they cut back on that?
I know that they cut back last year after the budget. They definitely cut back, and the sheriff indicated that budget cut significantly impacted his ability to put work release crews out to pick up litter. And I guess I would ask that we ask the county executive to ask the sheriff to reconsider and possibly put some money back in the budget to make that happen.
Okay.
Do we want to do that?
I would like to hear from the sheriff, before we agree to put money back in the budget.
Do you want to
No,
call-
it seems to be his answer, I need more money.
Do you want to do that yourself? Do you want to
Now,
call
the
the sheriff?
executive could also, well, yeah, I'll go ahead and call.
Okay, then give us a report.
I will. Another thing, Pastor Phillips from Pleasant View Baptist is having a drug awareness event, Sunday, March 3rd, 6 p.m., and they're gonna have, speakers for both children and for adults. So, once again, it's always encouraging to hear when the community's trying to make a positive difference. I attended many meetings last week. Saturday, I saw, it was Councilman McCarthy and I attended the meeting that the Army Corps of Engineers and the Maryland Port Authority held for Bayview and Westview Shores on the Pierce Creek dredge spoil site. And I have deep concerns about reopening that site and the impact it's going to have to the bay. The Clean Chesapeake Coalition I had mentioned had testified on SB 391. Howard County had put the tractor cape together. There was 12 tractors and there was none from Cecil County. I was a little disappointed in that. We are continuing our efforts to reach out to the state to discuss our concerns with the dam, which is why we've requested a meeting with the Bay Cabinet. Thursday, I attended a meeting on the Housing First model, which has been adopted for the VASH program. That was by executive order the day after President Obama was reelected. And Director David Mahaney, Director of Housing Community Development, and I were able to share our concerns with this model and request that the accountability factor be addressed to make it a feasible program. And I was very pleased with the reaction and support that we got at that meeting. A number of bills at the legislative meeting for MACO, and the minority speaker for the House, Delegate O'Donnell, and the speaker for the Senate, Senator Pipkin, addressed MACO, and of course, they shared our perspective and concerns, with the, Maryland General Assembly's, view this year, so, or consistent view.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brumel. Councilman Dunn, do you have any comments?
No, nothing this morning.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bowlesby, do you have anything?
Having been gone for 2 weeks, I don't have too much. I just want to say that the weather is really much worse here than it is in St. John. But I also want to say that I was very saddened to come back and hear the passing of Nelson Bolander and Judge Donald Cole. And I think that Cecil County has lost 2 pillars of the community.
And to your point, is there any objection to have a moment of silence this, tonight at our meeting?
I would certainly support that.
Good. Any objection? Okay. Councilman McCarthy, do you have any comments?
No, I just basically want to reiterate the passage of Nelson Bolander, certainly a stalwart in this community and quite a fine man. Thank you.
I'll ditto what you said. I thought that Nelson Bolander served his community in an exemplary way. He was an educator, an elected official, and a volunteer. And I don't know that there's going to be anyone that can replace him for all of the work that he has done here in Cecil County for many decades. I did go to his viewing last night and got there at 6:30 and didn't leave until 9 o'clock. Big crowd and well-liked guy, and I hope that we have some citizens that are willing to take some of his role going forward. Were you finished? I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's quite okay.
Okay, thank you. I did mention that the repeal of the Sustainable Growth and Agricultural Preservation Act is not going to happen this year. It's very disappointing. It would have saved us a lot of heartburn, but we'll have to continue on with the tier map. I would encourage everyone to come tonight to voice their opinion on the maps and the bill. Other than that, we will conclude this work session, and I'd like the motion to go into closed and an explanation why.
Before I make that motion, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you, President Hodge, a happy birthday.
Thank you.
I will make a motion to go into closed session.
Is there a second?
Yes, a second.
Jim, do you have, somebody have the explanation of why? Can you read that to the record, please?